Welcome to That's Anita Live, the talk show dedicated to providing emotional healing through sharing to help you create a happier life. If a friend called you with an urgent and frantic phone call saying that they had thoughts of suicide, would you know what to do? How would you respond? Today in studio, I have two experts, a mother-daughter duo on the front lines of mental health. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Niki
Yes.
Powell-Cottman and Kanai. That's how we're going to do introductions. Niki, when was Kanai first diagnosed? Like, when did you first see something that made you question or want to dig a little deeper into mental health?
Actually, at the age of 8, she started having like behavior issues in school.
Okay.
But it didn't start out as like aggression. It started out just sadness. Her teacher would say she would sleep all day in class. And then when she go in the principal's office, she'll sleep on their floor. And her socially, she just wasn't, she was very to herself. Couldn't really make friends.
Okay.
Just really standoffish.
And was that a stark difference from the first 7 years, or did this it slowly progressed?
It slowly started to be a problem. But she always, on the first day of school, kindergarten, she was throwing chairs. So I'll kind of go back to those times to say, wait a minute, I was missing something along the way. And the way she explained it to me was she heard the kids whispering, and she thought they were talking about her. So she got angry and she started throwing chairs. And I was like, wait a minute, my 5-year-old is throwing chairs. I had to ask her to repeat it several times. Like, you're telling my 5-year-old's throwing chairs in your class? So, but of course at 5, they don't diagnose, kids with things like that. Is this behavior issues? Maybe, they just give it all kinds of titles. In fact, the first thing she was diagnosed with was ADHD. So we tried doing nutritionist thing like gluten-free diet and all those things. So as it led on, as she got more so like the 8 and getting to like puberty, really, that's when things started to really shift and really started seeing signs that something was wrong. However, I was still stuck on the ADHD, but I'm like, we're talking about someone who's sleeping, so it's not
activity issue.
So something's not right. So my main concern with her was the social skills, because she really started isolating herself. But me not knowing anything about mental illnesses, anything other than the ADHD, I would not have said that she was depressed. Would not have said, that she was even having any thoughts or anything, because she didn't discuss it with. In fact, I don't even think she even knew exactly what was going on with herself. She was just emotional, easily be triggered. Things just started to really bother her. The things that we thought that should be small, but to her, it was like elevated. Like,
what do you remember from that time period, being 8 years old?
I really don't remember much.
Okay, what's your first memory of becoming aware of mental health?
When I was 13.
Okay.
That was like my first attempt at suicide.
Okay.
So then that's when I realized something was wrong, because I was sad all the time.
Take me back to that day, right? What are some of the things that crossed your mind during the day? What was concerning you at that time? Because we hear various sides. Some people say it's just a snap decision. Some people say that it's a small consideration that happens over time that comes down to that urgent decision. What would you say? As a suicide survivor, what would you say?
I would say, at least when I was 13, that I planned it. I planned it about 2 weeks in advance. So I was like trying to be the perfect child and be the perfect daughter for those 2 weeks. And then it was planned. My whole suicide attempt was planned. I just was waiting for the perfect time to do it.
How far did you get?
My heart stopped, and I was passed out in the floor of my house. So I was almost out of here.
Who was home with you?
My mother and my brother and my sister.
Who discovered you?
My brother.
And how did you become aware? Did your brother scream? Did he call you?
Well, the day that she came home, like I said, it seemed like a regular day. She just kind of, I asked her I do a feelings check. How was your day? The thing. She was like, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm just tired. And I also go back to that because I just keep, because she uses that term now, tired. But back then I didn't know that tired meant I'm giving up. But she just said, I'm just tired. I just want to go to sleep. I just want to take a nap. And I said, okay. I'll wake you up for dinner. So that was the whole thing. But she didn't take a nap in her room. She took a nap on her brother's floor. So while I was cooking dinner, obviously this is when she went and got the pills and stuff. So I didn't, I'm downstairs doing my regular thing. So I guess that's when she went and got them in, but she still laid on her brother's floor. So when he discovered her, he was trying to wake her up. I said, wake her up. It's like, come on, wake her up for dinner. He was like, she not waking up. He was getting angry because he was like, she ignoring me. Ma, she won't get up. And I was like,
that's not like her.
No, that don't make sense. So when they come on, New, get up, And when I realized that she was kind of lethargic, just really like not herself. So I helped her up. And when I helped her up, her limbs was like a chicken. It was just like, she just was like very limp. And I said, oh my gosh, something's wrong. So at that time, her dad was home. He was in the, garage in the gym. Everything just started moving really, really fast at that point. So within seconds of trying to walk her out into the hall, she just collapsed face first. Face down. So at this point, I'm on my phone, 911. They saying that she's breathing. I said, yes, she's breathing. Turn her over. Went through that whole process. They got there very quickly. They tried to work on her there, like get an IV going and everything, but her veins had collapsed. So at this point, they was just trying to get her out of the house, transport her. It was the longest ride to the hospital because I had to ride in the front. So all you see is them working on her in the back through the little window. And just fast forwarded, they was just saying that basically that it was too late to pump, use charcoal or pump anything out. It was already, she has consumed it obviously hours ago, so at this point it was like watch and go. But the blessing in that, at her weight that she was at that time, it was children's Tylenol. It wasn't adult. If they said it was adult, then the circumstances would have been different. So, it was just the longest several days of just, she was in like the ICU where they watch you through. And, nurses there in a room and IVs and all that. So it was just like that watching it go, just watching, just praying, that God turned it around. But that's where the fight came in at. Just being a mom, never knowing anything about it. And at that time, they didn't diagnose her.
Wait a minute. Tell me what you remember about coming to.
I know when I came to, I had a lot of people angry at me. Because like my mother said, my brother discovered me, but it was my younger brother who discovered me. So he was like angry and confused. And he felt like I was trying to leave him. So like our bond is really strong now because if it wasn't for my younger brother, I wouldn't be here. Because if he never went and got my mother, even though he did it out of frustration, if he never went and got my mother, I would not be here. So, I don't know. When I came to, I still didn't want to be here. I was actually angry that I was here. Like, my mother put me in a facility, and it took me a long time to get released because every time they would ask me, like, how are you feeling today? And I'd be like, I still don't want to be here. I'm like, the only reason I'm here is because y'all saved me, and no one asked you to do that. So, I was angry for a long time. I even attempted a couple more times because I genuinely did not want to be alive, and I was angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at everything because I was like, why am I still here? Why am I still suffering when all I do is make other people upset and I make other people sad and I'm a burden? So why am I here?
Have you ever gotten the answer to that question for yourself?
Yes.
And that is?
I feel like now God only gives his toughest battles to the strongest warriors.
Let's go.
So now I feel like I'm a testimony. I've had people DM me or inbox me and like, I heard your story. It helped me. Like, do you have time to talk? I have people reach out to me and they just want to tell me their story and tell me what they're going through and get advice on how I overcame or how am I where I am now. So even though sometimes I get frustrated and I'm like, I don't want to be a testimony, I understand why I am.
Because when you took it to another level, most parents would just immerse themselves, get the knowledge, fix their own family, and move on. But you actually started a magazine.
Yes.
You started a nonprofit.
Yes.
You have events.
Yes. It's
Tell me, what is the motivation that made you start the fight?
I mean, no parent asks, and I'm trying not to get emotional, no parent asks for something like that to come to their doorstep. And if you can figure out a way to fight with your child, you know, to help them to be their strength when she's weak and she can't fight for herself, I did that. I was in school to be a teacher. I changed my profession to go into psychology, to learn the ins and out of mental health. Like, I wanted to know triggers, symptoms, you know. I wanted to, because I don't want to miss anything, because to miss that sign and to almost lose her, I was like, oh no, I need to know everything I need to know. And in that, fight with her, you know, before we got to the point of the nonprofit, that's where the We Fight Foundation comes in there, because we're in this together. Like, she knows I got her back. And in times, just seeing her strength it makes me even stronger. We just pull on each other, you know.
So if there a mom who is now in shoes that you've walked in, saying that their reality has hit them, they're sitting in that hospital chair and they're wondering, how did we get here? What would you say to that parent?
First of all, turn your agony into a ministry, because the fact is, like she's saying, God don't make no mistakes. So although it seems really, really bad, you know, he always, good gonna come out of everything, and look for the good in it. You know, you're blessed, your child is still here. So instead of being, you know, you're not starting a memorial like anything like I'm doing the foundation. I could have been the one to start it in remembrance.
Right.
But she's here fighting with me. So that's, we get the I fight, you fight, we fight together. One thing your child will never need to feel is that they're alone. You know, because there's times that, we had a situation where she cried out to me, because at the age of 18, she was ready to attempt again. But she said to me, why do you love me so much? That's what makes it hard for me to give up. And I said, and that's why. That's why. We had that conversation, you know.
What's your side of that conversation, though? Can you answer that question, why she loves you so much?
Not really. I feel like I still search for answers. I'm still learning. I'm still coping. So sometimes I do have my moments where I'm just like, I'm tired.
Do you go back to her and ask that question and make her repeat the answer to you?
Sometimes.
She does, and I pull right back into her. We have to make sure we work on ourselves, and I will say that for parents, self-care is so extremely important. We have to make sure that we keep our cup full.
The care of the caretaker.
Yep, we have to take care of ourselves, because we have to be ready for when it's time to go and fight the war, you know.
Yes.
We have to be ready, because if we're weak and we're not where we need to be, it's hard to be there for her. I tell people, like, you see in the magazine, you see in the foundation and the workshops and support groups that we're doing, but this is an everyday fight. This is an everyday fight. Like, it's always, because she can be happy this morning, but we can leave here, something can trigger her and it can throw her completely off. And then, you know, we have to figure it out. We have to figure it out together.
We'll be right back after this.
Here's what you miss when you're not in studio with That Anita Live.
I don't even mention this in the book.
No, you didn't.
At 96th Street, you transfer into the one.
You want it.
Yes.
Because you know I'm at the end of my toilet paper roll when you talk about seasons in life.
She said,
I'd rather be good by myself.
please, spill the tea.
Come on. I love to have you in my audience. Please tell them. Please tell the man to leave it.
And we're back with the legendary ladies on the front lines of mental health. Now tell me, the workshops that you offer for parents, is that through the foundation?
Yes.
Okay. How many different types of workshops do you offer?
We currently have support groups that we actually have the first Monday of every month for teens and youth. It's also for caregivers. Then that's the first Monday of the month, and then we have it for the adults as well.
Okay.
Which we've typically been having the first Saturday. We're just trying to be consistent with it. In the support groups, we start out with just giving them, basic information in reference to. At the time, we give it an opportunity for them to go around and share first and foremost, and then. Right now, we've been seeing a lot of depression, and then amongst the kids, actually anger. You know what I mean? And that's actually what I want to make sure that parents understand: being able to separate between the two. You have a teenager, you know what I mean, that has a mental illness. So it's a thin line there. So often, they can play that card sometimes with the mental illness and being a typical teenager. Okay. So being able to make sure they understand the difference and not mistaken, because you can even one mistaking it that they're, is really something wrong, they really need your assistance, and then, or you can be soft and be like, well, and start using it, and it enables them. Because one thing I did not do, being a parent, although she was diagnosed with a mental illness, is I did not allow it to define her. I still pushed her to do, to be successful, to still live a meaningful life. You're going to graduate, you know what I mean? You're going to get a good job. This is not something that's going to be disabled. Yeah, she's going to get her license, and she's going to drive. All the things that they try to, oftentimes stigma,
The stigma says what they
can't do. You know what I mean? But with the right support, they can do, and that's what we're shining, on, and that's one of the biggest thing in the magazine. Shining a light on our mental health warriors to say that they can do.
Which came first, the workshops and the foundation, or the magazine?
The foundation and the workshops came first, and we felt like it was keeping it in a box. You only could do so much right there in that foundation, or even social media. I said, this thing needs to be global. This thing needs to it needs to go into homes like the Essence and everything else, except the ultimate guide to mental health, wherever that is. That they can go there and be relatable to the story. These are real people with real stories. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And real things that happen to them, and actually overcoming. You know what I mean? And that helps people to fight, because at the end of the day, if you always seeing bad, you know what I mean, you're falling right into that depression of it all. But if you see this, some people really making it, and I can do that too. I can be that person, So I'm highlighting that. That's big. Like even Taki, I'm looking at her on the cover of that.
What have you found to be most successful that have helped the teens and the kids hold on to overcome?
Being there. I mean, to be honest, they can go to classes, they can learn about their own mental illness. Okay. We can learn about our own mental illness. But if they feel like they fighting by themselves, or you giving up on them, what are they gonna fight for? You know what I mean? Because you like she said to herself, oftentimes they already going through their own struggles. Even trying to fit in. Be at all the things that they're doing, go through at school, just the social life. They're already trying to find their way. So if they come home and you got a parent, and not really knowing that they certain things that they need, they just like, well, shoot, you don't want me here either. They give up. And if they don't feel like they have someone that they can open up to, you have to make your house. I always say my house is our sanctuary. When you come home, you should be able to relax. You should be able to, dump if you need to. This is your sanctuary. So you got all that you fighting out there in the world. When you come here, so you have to build a safe haven, a sanctuary for your kids, because it's so much they're coming up against.
Once you cross that threshold, you can exhale.
Exhale.
You feel that way? What would you tell somebody out there that is a teen or a young adult, under 25, struggling with self-harm?
To get help. Like, there's no shame in getting help. If you had a broken ankle or a broken foot, you go to a doctor for help, and there's no shame. So for mental health, it should be the same way. If you need help, seek help. Because there's people out there who struggle just like you, so you don't have to fight alone.
And when they DM you or send you emails or contact you, does that make you feel the power and the specialness that you have
Sometimes.
to be able to pour into people like that?
Sometimes.
When it gets too heavy, who do you turn to?
My support system.
And that's a good answer, because she didn't just say one person, she said a system. So there are a number of people that she knows that you can turn to at any given time.
And that's one of the things we help in our groups is something. A lot of people don't have support system. I have asked several people that comes into support groups,
Okay.
you know, who's your support system? And they sit there and look at me like I have 3 heads. Like, what? Support system? You know what I mean?
It is just me.
Yeah, and oftentimes they do not have that. So that's one thing we help them build. Like, let's look around, let's talk about who you communicate with and those things to help them build a support system, because I mean, like she said, you have to have someone that you can turn to, you know, to help you fight, or just talk it through, you know, figure out what's the next step to assess the situation, you know, whether or not they need, you know, to, you know, get further help. But that's very extremely important as a support system.
Now, you were going to mention this young lady.
Yes.
On the cover of, which issue is this?
That's a spring issue that just passed, yes.
Spring 19.
Yes, yes. And Takia, she's definitely a warrior. She's suffered with manic depression, and she has a podcast. So when I met her, she that just blesses my soul and warms my heart. You know what I mean? Not that she don't have her everyday struggles, but those are the people that I want to highlight on the cover, because, you know, it's separating the fact that you do have this mental illness, but you still can shine. You know, she done wrote her book. You know, she's an advocate. You know, so an advocate with NAMI. So she does. I'm just so proud of her, because I do know the everyday struggle, but she finds her way to continue to push. And that's one of the things. The people that I connect with, I say we family. I check on them. You know, I like to stay connected, because I just feel like it just make it bigger. We can be a part of your support system as well, you know.
How do you decide who to include? There's a lot of content in this magazine. And I know behind the scenes, a lot goes into putting a magazine together.
Yes, it does.
So how do you find the time? How do you choose content?
My. You know, I spend a lot of time in my, you know, just praying and things. I always ask God for connection. I believe in divine connections. So it's just funny. I could be searching through social media, whatever. It's just certain people just stands out with me. I read their pages through networking, through events. I meet so many people. It's really like people drawing to me that I just find to have that conversation. Is like, you know what? I want you to. I have you know, and they like, really, and it empowers them, believe it or not, to say, you mean to tell me you're gonna put me who has a mental, I'm going on a cover, you know what I mean? So it really just like a stepping stone in their lives to say, you're not focusing on my mental illness, you're actually
treating me like a person.
It blesses me. So it's just, I just been connected to some really great people, just the fact that we're in this field. The connection has been, I mean, it's awesome to meet good people, to push past. I meet the person in that. We're not worrying about their ills.
So you went into psychology. You started the foundation.
Yes.
You started the magazine. What's next
Ooh.
for the mother-daughter duo on the front lines of mental health?
Actually, we're going to just build on what we have, leveling up what we have, because we're actually going to be starting a kids zone in the magazine.
Really?
Yes, we're going to put a kids zone in here.
There's Warrior Zone.
Yep.
Special features.
Yes, making a difference. And so,
Black Mental Health Matters.
So we're going to start a kids zone. So right now, I'm creating a pilot. We're going into the schools, to be honest. We Fight Foundation is in the process of creating a pilot to get into these schools, because it saddens me, and that's one of the things that my daughter and I talk about a lot, because she didn't mention that, but what tipped it over was the fact that she was bullied that day, and it just was like, I'm done, you know. why they keep teasing me, why they keep calling me fat, things of that nature. It just tipped her over. And we're just hearing so much, the kids are lost, in the school system, leaving school and just going home and just giving up, and they're as young as 5. And that's what and I just don't feel like they're getting what they need. Oftentimes, I was just even go back to during my time,
Okay.
And like I said, I never heard the word
Right.
like from a child point of view, you know what I mean? You might have heard of someone older or something like. For me, this is where I was. So for it to come to my doorstep and I hear suicide, and it was to call my parents and even say, she attempted. I was like, it was hard to even come out of my mouth. You know what I mean? The last thing a parent would think is that, to be honest, that your child would do that. So that's why I'm saying education is important too, especially for parents, because don't think that your child, not my child, like not mine.
Right.
Yes, yours. You know what I mean? It can happen. So that's why we need to know the signs, even the silent signs. Even them being angry, going into drugs, because she started fighting, trying to, argument in the home.
Okay.
Those are like the other symptoms that is mistaken, and then, they do a lot of times, like she said, they do that to push you away, so it makes it easier for them to attempt suicide. So it's so much to learn. I can't go back to that enough. Like, don't think that it cannot hit your doorstep, because it can. You know what I mean? And so if we all come together, like I said, it takes a village. I think the percentage will come down, because it's more being educated, it's more things put in place, it's more things being put in place for the school. You know what I mean? The children, the parents is doing what they need to do to make it stop, you know what I mean? Because just like say the epidemic of like AIDS or stuff like that, those big things that started hitting teenagers, it's a lot that came along the way. Why does mental
illness get pushed
gotta
to
be
the side?
treated differently? So the same fight you had for, just have to keep it real, the same fight you had for like cancer that's killing, and I remember back in the day, AIDS was big amongst young people because they were having unprotected sex. We got to go hard for mental, health the same way. Teach them how to take care of their mental, period.
We have to go hard to teach them how to take care of their mental.
Yes.
She gave us a lot of great content and nuggets on self-care, not just for the person with the diagnosis, but also for the person that is providing the care, because you can't care for someone if you aren't caring for yourself.
That's right.
To reach out to Niki, you can find her on Instagram.
Yes, we're at We Fight Foundation, and we're at Raleigh Up Magazine, and that's the same for Facebook.
I'm Anita, your host. Be sure to check out that'sanitalive.com for where and when to see our next episode.